Hello and welcome to Illini Drive. I always like to wait for that music to just fade out perfectly, and then we come in. We don't have enough hype music yet, so it's always I use that moment. This is Illini Drive here on 107.1 WPGU. I'm Eli Schuster. I'm joined alongside Isaac Trotter, Tati Perry, producer. Tati, hello.
Hello.
Love to get Tati talk. And today we have a guest filling in. I will say a bit of news first. Brian Binn's usually on this show Tuesday and Thursday. He will no longer be on this show. That's fine.
It is his birthday, so I'll wish him a virtual happy birthday.
Yeah, but he's not going to be on this show anymore. But that's totally okay. We love him. He's going to probably text us takes. I was talking to him earlier today, and he said he'll be listening and texting. So might have that. But otherwise, Nathan DeHaan.
Yeah.
He's usually on the Monday, Wednesday show, if you listen to this.
In this exact seat, too. So
that's where Brian sat. Now it's yours.
I feel at home.
Yeah. So you're filling in, and it's pretty solid stuff.
And my producer, Alex Aguilera, is here. Are you just hanging out right now, or?
I gotta what is it? Send the Wednesday show to Jake.
Okay.
And the computer station.
Jake on Monday, Wednesday.
That's why I'm here.
Jake from Monday, Wednesday.
Jake from State Farm or Jake?
No, Monday, Wednesday. Awesome. Yeah. So we got a full house. We got a full house in here. It's nice though, and it's nice to be cozy, and we have a good show, and that makes it even better. We're gonna be able to talk about an Illinois victory for this is a rare show for that reason.
Woo!
Being able to talk about an Illinois victory. We're gonna be talking about their game against Minnesota that they had last night. A dominant win for them. They haven't really won like that since the late 90s, so that was a pretty big for them in Big Ten play, and it'll be fun to talk about that. I would assume another great game. Georgi Vashonchashvili, also a massive game from him. We will also talk some professional basketball. We're going to talk a little bit of NBA right now. James Harden's going off. Steph Curry had another big night last night, so just talk about the current state of the NBA, high-scoring league right now. What are we thinking? That's what we're going to get into a little bit. So there's a lot of basketball on the agenda, just because that's the season right now that we're in.
Yeah, we're late January.
Yeah,
that's when we kind of settle in.
Exactly.
No one cares about baseball right now. No one. Outside of Champaign, no one really cares about football that much. I mean, other than the fact that there's like a kind of a massive weekend this weekend. We probably should touch on a little bit of NFL.
Yeah, I want to talk about Brady's legacy a little bit.
We can. That could be the end of the show.
In case ESPN hasn't done enough of that recently.
Right. Yeah. If we shove football in at the end, then great. But right now we're going to stick with. We did some baseball talk Tuesday. I don't think anyone else wants to hear anything about Manny Machado or Bryce Harper, so we're leaving that out the window. So it'll be good. I'm excited. I'm excited to get into it. But where we're going to start is definitely talking about last night. Looking at this game that Illinois had against Minnesota. Really heading into this, Minnesota going into the game was a 1.5 point favorite only. That was actually something that surprised a good amount of people that it was going to be that close of a game. Vegas, for some reason, had it pretty right, except it was a blowout. But at least they had it close, which was shocking, which is better than a lot of people had, which was kind of Minnesota winning by a lot. So I think the first question I'll pose about this game, though, is what went right? Why did this happen? Because there's been moments this could have happened throughout the season. But why did we see it happen in this game?
I think a couple things that you saw a little bit. I think you, first of all, saw Illinois really compete on the glass, and that was one of the biggest things that Illinois needed to do. This Minnesota team came in as one of the best rebounding teams in the Big Ten. They had Jordan Murphy, who leads the Big Ten in rebounding. He's the fourth all-time rebounder in Big Ten history, and you out-rebounded them by 13. They had one rebound at the under-12 timeout.
And Jordan Murphy only had 3 total, and he averages over 11 a game.
Yeah, 12.1 points rebounds per game. So it was just an insane performance for Illinois on the glass. And the second thing I think you saw is a changing of the guard. Tevian Jones, Alan Griffin, and Samba Kane are 3 freshmen that have kind of not gotten the minutes that we all expected them to get. Well, they were all in the first 5 minutes of the game, and Illinois really pushed the tempo. Then Ayodesumu just absolutely takes over. Awesome performance last night. Got to feel really good about where you're at. Now you need to stack another good performance on that, because one good performance means nothing if you go out and lay an egg on Sunday against Iowa.
I think it was a game that something I'm even more interested about is, yes, we saw them crash the boards the way they did. Yes, we saw Georgie have a good offensive rebounding day, especially. But what I'm thinking about is still, I feel like the question isn't answered of why did this happen? What was it? And that's something that hopefully in the future we can even get out of this team a little bit more. What was different in practice this week? That's what I'm curious about. Why did it click in this game? And because there was obviously being there and covering it, Isaac and I, we were there covering it, and you can just tell the energy was incredibly palpable, but also a lot stronger than normal for this team. And they came out firing. That was something I think a handful of people expected. They just kind of thought the recent history for this team and how they've lost, that they're going to come out strong. But the fact that they were able to do it for 40 minutes in this game, especially against a team that their strong suit is what Illinois doesn't do well, was really shocking.
And I think also this game, it was a complete game. Something that we saw a lot from Illinois this season was, going 3 quarters and then sort of falling off, or 3 quarters of a 4 quarters game, if you can imagine, falling off near the end, or not having anything going in the first half, and then too little, too late there at the end. Here was a game that you were crushing Minnesota at halftime, and then I guess you could have taken the foot off the gas near the end, but instead we chose to end up with a 30-point win. What does it end up being? 27, whatever it is. That's promising for me. That shows a team that can put together an entire game, and that is crucial when it comes to tougher opponents. I don't think that we're anticipating a deep tournament run or anything this year, but similarly to we got a tough Big Ten schedule. I'd like to see wins. So seeing that we can put together something like this against Minnesota, maybe we turn around and surprise a ranked team here in the future.
Nathan, I think that's a really good point because Illinois is up 23 at halftime. Minnesota starts that second half on a 9-3 run to cut it to 16 at the under 16 timeout. And I turned to the guy who was sitting next to me and I go, this feels a lot like the Iowa game last year where Illinois jumped out to a big 15, 20-point lead in the first half. Iowa chips back in the second half, makes it a game down the stretch, and ultimately beats you in overtime. Illinois didn't let that happen. They immediately went on a 14-0 run from that moment to stretch their lead from 16 back out to 30, and it really technically ended the game right there, and Minnesota was never able to get back into it. So for a team that struggled so much to put 40 good minutes of basketball together, they were really, really poised and really went through didn't go through the motions and compete on the defensive end. And that 14-0 run was just a backbreaker for Minnesota, and they just never could really recover from that.
And I will say I give a lot of credit to Brad Underwood, someone who I really was questioning a bit after, of course, the FAU game, something a lot of people did. Even the next game that they had starting against Indiana, there was some interesting things and moves that was happening in that game. But he kind of lost me a little bit. It was a situation where, and I've said it on the show before, I never questioned Underwood really before that FAU game. Actually, even before that, when he wasn't usually playing Samba, I thought Samba deserved a little more playing time. And that's the only time I've ever really questioned him. And then the FAU game happened. I started questioning his abilities a little bit more, thinking about, maybe he doesn't really understand how he should be running this team. But then he really won me back against in the Michigan game. I thought the Michigan game was a very well-coached game. That wasn't going to be a team you were going to beat. I don't think it was going to happen. You're not going to upset them. That was not going to happen. But he coached it, I think, as well as he could have. And he kept it close. And then to see him coach in this game, and obviously a lot of credit goes to the players and Georgie and Io who had big games, but just seeing him trust, okay, I'm starting DeMonte Williams because, I want to have that kind of defensive savvy player out there. And then, I'm going to put Samba in early. Tevian Jones is getting tick early. That was really important in this game. And I'm glad that, you've seen him at least make that adjustment because it was really key for that game.
And another thing that he did was Illinois had run kind of their simple spread offense so often that we kind of got used to it. Michigan was out there calling exactly what Illinois was going to do. I feel like plenty of us in this room could have done the exact same thing that assistant coach was doing, saying, hey, the ball's going to go here. And this is.
Well,
they came out
Felice
yesterday.
is going to run in and then pass it out for a three.
Right,
That's
right.
every play.
Instead, this time they went with a lot of dribble weaves up top at the very beginning of the game, gave Iowa opportunities to get downhill and get to the cup. They also did a great job of getting Georgie Bashanishvili post touches early, which is something they haven't done well early. You just saw a little bit different schematically. Then as soon as Minnesota goes zone, Illinois had a play dialed up right away for that. Io gets a wide open right wing three and knocks it down. Multiple things. Every single time that Minnesota made an adjustment, Illinois had the counter punch for that, and that all goes down to Brad Underwood. Also love the way the defensive scheme to shut down Amir Coffey, who led the Big Ten in 24 points a game in Big Ten play. He shot 2 of 13 from the field against Illinois and finished with 9 points. Outstanding coaching by Underwood yesterday.
Yeah, you brought up Georgie in the post. That's something that I think this season we've seen progress a little bit more.
Yeah,
that's exactly.
How often do you forget that Georgie's a freshman that came in? We weren't really sure what we were going to get out of him this season, and he's been a staple of the starting lineup.
The best evaluation that this staff is probably made.
Yeah. He averaged 8 points and 1 rebound in high school.
Yeah,
it's easy to evaluate. It's easy to evaluate. I would assume it's easy to evaluate. Tevian Jones. What the athleticism that guy brings. Georgie is traditionally a power forward that you're putting in, at the center position right now. And he really should be playing that 4 spot. But to be able to have the trust in him and to be able to evaluate the type of player that he was going to become, that's what really makes this group impressive. But I think that I've seen over the past several games, and another reason that I give Underwood some credit right now is they have tried to go to Georgie inside more and more. They actually tried to do it quite a bit in the Indiana game, I know. And that was something that, okay, we want to challenge Juwan Morgan a little bit and put him in there. And I liked that. I think that was something that they need. It doesn't matter who you're playing. I don't care if on the other end, they have a guy like Jordan Murphy out there who, is going to be an amazing rebounder. I don't care if Georgie, compared to some of these guys standing there, is a little smaller. At the end of the day, you need to assert yourself on the inside a little bit. And the fact that he's done that over the past couple games, even starting the past couple games on the first few plays, just doing an inside pass,
absolutely,
that's key, because that really separates yourself from where you used to be, and you now show the team that you're playing, look, we have a different element of our game that we're not scared to bring out.
And to kind of put this into perspective, the top 4 freshman scorers in Big Ten play, 1 is Romeo Langford, 2 is Ayo Dosunmu,
sure,
3 is Ignas Brazdeikis from Michigan,
sure,
4 is Georgie Bashanishvili.
Let's go.
Those are 2 5-stars and a 4-star in front of you, and then a kid who was number 370 in the 247 composite rankings. That's the type of performance he had. Plus, he probably had the stat of the night last night. He was a plus 39 when Georgie was on the floor last night. That's ridiculous. On the other side of that, Amir Coffey, Minnesota's best player, was a negative 31 when he was on the floor for his 32 minutes of play. Outstanding effort by Georgie last night.
I think that we see Georgie, we see what he did, but to see the continued spurt and growth that Ayo Dosunmu is in right now, it's remarkable to see him do what he's done. I mean, he scored 105 points now over the past 5 games.
I looked up the stat this morning, and he and Corey Bradford are the top 2. This 5-game stretch of 105 points in the last 5 games. Him and Corey Bradford are the best 2 freshmen ever. Wow. Most points ever in 5 games. It's insane.
He's put it, and I think one of the things I love about watching him play is that he does it. He's very different than watching Trent play. When Trent goes off to making the big move in Gonzaga that he did in the second half and scoring his 20-something points in that, what's really crazy about watching Ayo play is you just look up at the stat sheet and you go, wow. It's not even a moment where you're keeping track as he's going. You just look up eventually at the end of the game and you go, oh, I didn't even know this is what this guy was doing.
A shot 9 for 13 and 3 for 4 from downtown. I mean, that's just efficient right there. And he's so crafty at the top of the key.
Yeah,
too.
And it's not like he doesn't have the necessarily explosiveness or even elusiveness that a guy like Trent Frazier has, who's able to, off the dribble, just put up a crazy shot and get it to drop in. But he's just got this cocky but nice demeanor to him that he can make moves on the inside and make it work. And it's a player that Illinois hasn't seen in quite some time, and it's a player that I think people watching basketball haven't really seen either. I know on the Tuesday show I posted this, but he's a weird guy to make a comparison for, because how he plays is pretty strange. It's for a guard, at least, what he's doing. So he's somebody that when you watch him, it's really hard to picture somebody that does exactly what he does. And that's why NBA teams are so interested in it.
Which is a good problem to have.
I want to try a comparison.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've done this before.
Okay.
I'm just going to put this out here and
let
me
me
know
what you got.
Tony Parker.
Yeah, that was actually someone who brought up on the Tuesday show.
Okay.
And we refuted that. We talked about we talked about it, but that's Tony Parker isn't as long or lengthy. I think that's the biggest thing.
And will not be the defender that Ayo will be.
Yeah. Well, I know people that I've brought up before have been guys like Dennis Schroeder, guys like, even a Drew Holiday or Reggie Jackson. Those types
Tony
that
Carr.
those types that are dominant scorers on the inside, not necessarily great shooters, but they're also long and they're lengthy and they're point guards. But I think that's why he's so interesting as an NBA prospect, because of the fact that you just don't know what he is. But that's so exciting because he could do so many things differently.
And it's so funny how we've kind of all labeled him as not a good shooter, and he's still shooting 44% from behind the arc. Yeah. And he still has to buck that trend a little bit because the sample size just isn't quite big enough through 17 games of college basketball.
But I think he's also gotten, I think the reason that number is so high, and I think he has improved his shooting really well. And honestly, if he does improve his shooting even more, that's really scary type of player he can become. But I think he does a really good job at choosing his shots. And you don't see Trent. You see somebody that just pulls up and he's going to try to nail it wherever he is. But if you have Ayo, he's gotten some good looks and he's gotten some open looks and he knows when to take them. The ones that were very impressive was when he's able to do what he did yesterday against Minnesota and he just takes the ball up. He comes to a quick stop and puts it up and drains it. That's when he's just on fire. That he's just in the groove.
And now he's also added the ability to do the little bit of the floaters. He has the 12 to 15 foot floater that he has. It's kind of like a running one-handed shot now too, which is really, really tough to guard. And his ability just to have so good body control to kind of take the defender, take the contact, kind of hang in the air a little bit and just kiss it off the glass right before the end of the first half to give Illinois a 51-28 lead. That was a special play there. And what you're seeing right now is one of the best stretches of an Illinois has ever seen from a freshman. It's kind of making people nervous because how is he going to go to the NBA? I don't think that this is a bad thing at all. I think it helps you big time, not just on the court, but I think it helps you so much in recruiting because when's the last time Illinois has had a player in the NBA that you go, hey, I'm going to recruit you so you can be like that? Darren Williams is old.
Yeah.
That was 13, 14 years ago. You know, you're not going to go tell a big, hey, you can be the next Myers Leonard because he's sitting on the bench for Portland. I would assume it was a different story, and that it's just a different vibe that he gives to the court and gives to Illinois' long-term future.
Yeah, it's promising too because the people we have coming in are big men. You know, like the recent stuff, the splashes that we made in this class are the holes that we need to fill. And, you know, Io sticks around, Trent's still here, Georgie gets another year.
Get a wing.
You start looking at this team and being like, you know, I really like the way that we match up.
Sure.
And every coach, the compliment I hate getting all year is that Illinois is really tough to play against. Oh, yeah, don't worry, you took care of us. But they realize that we're going to be good, and I think that Illini fans hopefully got a glimpse of that last night of what happens if this young team puts everything together, and also, you know, we got more in the tank.
Yeah, I think this is the first year where that is a believable statement because over the past several years that's been a trend for Illinois to get the comments of this is the hardest blank team to play.
Not during John Gross's tenure.
No, even at the end, even towards the end of John Gross's tenure, he was getting it. For the last year that John Gross was here, that's kind of what he was getting because, you know, you had guys like, oh, Jeremiah Tillman's going to come in, you know, so they were getting.
Coleman Lands is going to be the best shooter in the conference.
So they said that was 100%.
Alexander.
Right.
Yeah, that was 100% something that was said towards the last year of John Gross saying, well, this team right now, I mean, they're pretty tough with Malcolm Hill and these guys, but think about next year. Look what they're going to be able to do next year. And, you know, it was obviously said during Underwood's first year as well. And this is the first year I think it could be really believed because especially if Io stays, which all of us kind of in here think he will. I think he will for sure. Yeah. I think that this is a situation where he enjoys playing here. He likes this program. He's having fun. You could tell even when he's losing, this is a guy who just loves being here and playing for this program. And when you're able to get a guy like Kofi to come in, you know, when you are able to have a lineup where you can have Teb at a 3, and then you can have Io and Trent on the court at the same time, and then you can put Georgie at a 4, and then you actually have a true center in there with I don't even care.
Who's 7'1" and 280 pounds and a behemoth.
And I don't even care if it's January. You know,
right.
You still have a true center in that game, which you need. That's an incredibly deadly lineup, and being led by Io DeSumo is key.
And you need Tevian to take a step forward. You need to recruit another wing, whether that's Christian Brown, whether that's Kyrie Walker. You got to get one of those wings. Maybe Alan Griffin takes that step forward because I think we've seen, and we can kind of get into this in the next segment if we want, but Kipper Nichols doesn't look like he's going to be the guy that we all thought he possibly could be. He didn't score last night, kind of struggled with some turnovers. So you need a wing, but I agree with you. It's so funny coming into this year, we thought that post was going to be the biggest bugaboo for this Illinois team, and you could look at next year and be like, wow, we feel really good about our post depth with Kofi Cockburn, with Antoine January, with Samba Kane, and Georgie Pashonishvili. That's a four-headed monster that you can do a lot of different things with and tinker with around and do some good things.
All right, well, we're going to continue speaking about this, but after the break. So we're going to take a quick break right now, and make sure you stick with us. You're listening to Illini Drive here on 107.1 WPGU. Hello, and welcome back to Illini Drive here on 107.1 WPGU. Before the break, we were doing a lot of fun talk. I'm also here joined alongside Isaac Trotter, Nathan DeHaan, and producer Tati Perry. Tati?
What is up?
Love it. When she talks, it's the best part of the show. That's it. You can turn it off now because you just heard the best content that you're going to get from the show.
Music to listeners' ears.
Yeah, just hearing Tati speak. Before the break, we were talking about Illinois basketball last night against Minnesota. The team was doing a good job, and Georgie did a great job, and Io, he continued cooking. And speaking of cooking, I want to talk a little bit about a sponsor that we have here.
That
on
is
the
a
show.
segue, my friend.
That's
called a professional segue.
Well, that's how I do it here. But there's a lot of restaurants in the Champaign area. We talked about this a little bit on Tuesday. Illini Drive, we're excited to be sponsored by Visit Champaign County this month. We're highlighting the 3rd annual restaurant week. So a lot of good restaurants that you can go try. If you want to find out information about this, visit champaigncounty.org/restaurant week. Has a lot of information. Tati, what's your favorite restaurant in Champaign?
Honestly, I think I need to go out more.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yesterday, I learned there were definitely more places to eat in Champaign than I previously knew.
Well,
So-
I remember on Tuesday we talked about this, and I was hoping maybe you've tried someplace by now, but I know Tuesday we were talking about it, and you had no idea, and that's why I said, you know what you should do, Tati? Visit champaigncounty.com.
And I'm definitely going to check it out,
Yeah, but make sure it's /restaurant week, because
course.
that's where you're going to learn about this. Also, if you're interested, diners can also participate in an Instagram contest, sharing their pictures and experiences with #CC Restaurant Week for a chance to win a $100 gift card to their Champaign County area restaurant of choice. I'd pick Black Dog. That's just me.
Yeah, good pick.
Great pick.
I would spend $100 there in one night. It'd be easy.
Just on the burn ends.
7 Saints isn't bad.
7 Saints is pretty good, but I mean, I can only do so many sliders.
True.
Yeah.
Black Dog, I could just fill up.
People talk about their sliders. I've heard from somebody that worked at Seven Saints that there are other things on the menu that top them. I'm trying to remember her recommendation, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. All I know is that she said sliders are very good, but there are sneakily better options out there. So keep trying.
If that's true, then I need $100. So I'm going to be entering that contest again. That's an Instagram contest. Instagram, you can go #CC Restaurant Week and for a chance to win a $100 gift card to a Champaign County area restaurant of your choice. Again, more information could be found on this. Tati definitely needs more information on this, so I know she'll be heading there at www.visitchampaigncounty.org/restaurant week. Make sure you do that. Make sure you do that. But now we're done talking about cooking. Now that's over. I want to talk about the future. What maybe will be cooking in the future.
Okay.
We saw what happened last night against Minnesota. We're done talking about the game itself. Let's now look ahead to Iowa. This is a team who's had a very good season so far. What is this win now for Illinois? Does this do anything? Is this just that win of the season that comes at home, looks good, big moment for them, and this is the biggest moment of the season for them? What is, or does this momentum carry on?
Okay, so I don't look at this team and I go, yeah, they're going to go on the road to Iowa and they're going to shoot 8 of 16 from behind the arc, and they're going to shoot 56% from the field, and they're going to hold Minnesota to 25 rebounds. I don't think that's going to happen on Sunday. Iowa's a very good team. I'll be interested to see if their star forward, Tyler Cook, will be healthy. He was out against Penn State with a bad ankle injury. He was a game-time decision, did not end up playing. Iowa went on to beat Penn State 88-82, kind of struggled in the first half, came back from behind to win. But I looked at this game, and this game can go one of two ways. Illinois can build off this Minnesota performance and make this like we can look back at the end of the year and be like, yeah, that was the turning point where everything finally clicked. All of the little flashes in the pans of, wow, they put it together 10 or 15 minutes of real good minutes against Michigan. They played 15 minutes really well against Indiana, and then they finally put it together against Minnesota for 40 good minutes, and they built off that for the rest of the year. That's up to them. That could be the performance, or they could go out and lay an egg. I feel like there's just no in between right here, and it's really up to the staff and to have them ready to roll, and it's up to the players not to get lackadaisical after a big time performance and to continue to work hard in practice and get ready to go for a very, very good Iowa team.
This is an important game coming up for Illinois. I don't think that there's any salvaging of this season at the end of the day. I think that's something
take.
that everybody,
this 5-12 Illinois team
It's not making the NCAA tournament.
Fresh off its first Big Ten win.
Yeah, I think that's something that it might be. There's a lot of diehard Illinois fans out there that just don't want to believe that. They want to say maybe this is going to carry a bunch of momentum.
17-game winning streak.
Yeah, you're going to beat Iowa, then you're going to beat Wisconsin at home. Which, hey, those two wins aren't out of the question.
Absolutely not.
They're really not. You could, if you continue what you're doing right now, you could beat Iowa, and then sure at home, if the same type of environment you had last night, yeah, you could beat Wisconsin.
Minnesota just beat Wisconsin. It wasn't all that close.
No, and so it in the Big Ten, that's what happens.
And Iowa's one home loss against Wisconsin. So although I don't think this Iowa game, a lot of us are anticipating us coming out there and surprising them in their home turf, but then you come back and you put up, a pretty good game against Iowa, and they were beat by Wisconsin, but we know Wisconsin isn't necessarily the, top dog that they sometimes are. So that becomes a winnable game. At least you add that hope now with a win against Minnesota in that dominating fashion we did.
I think the reason you could look at this Iowa game as a potential win for Illinois this weekend is strictly relies on how they take the momentum from this win last night. Because I think that I think you do know what you're going to get from Iowa. I think that, eventually Iowa's going to have a game that he scores 12 or something. Eventually it's coming. I don't think it'll be against Iowa. I do think he could continue to have a pretty good showing. I think on Iowa
has no one on their roster who can guard him.
So I think you're going to see, Io go towards the, 19 points, 20 points a game that right now he's getting 20 points a game, but you're going to see him go right around there, I think, at Iowa. Georgie, I think there's a little inconsistency there with Georgie, but I think Georgie can play pretty solid. It's going to come down again to what it's come down a couple times this season. Who's the third guy? Who's going to be the third guy in this game? I don't think it's going to be Kipper.
No.
Right? And what I would love to see is it be Tevian Jones. I think that we saw a quick spurt of Tevian. It's going to be hard because I think that we could have almost had a breakout performance from Tevian, and then the foul trouble really held it back. And now I don't know when we're going to see it again. Yeah. I would love though for it to be a Tevian Jones type of performance at Iowa, but I don't know who that third guy is going to be, and that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, I really think that if the third guy for Illinois isn't Trent Frazier, then something's wrong with Trent Frazier, because this is a kid who was the second best freshman in all of the Big Ten last year.
And he liked Iowa last year.
And
he liked playing Iowa last year.
He does love playing Iowa. And again, Iowa's guards are not in the position where they can hang with Io and Trent. And there's just no way to say that. And I was actually kind of encouraged a little bit with Trent last night. His three wasn't necessarily falling. He was only 1 of 4 from long range. And he only scored 4 points in the first half because he got in foul trouble. But he really turned it on in the second half and had 11 of his 15 points in that second half. Got active on the defensive side of the ball, got some runouts, got some layups, and starts to get that confidence back a little bit. Because let's be honest, the best 3 players on this team are Io, Georgie, and Trent. Mm-hmm. And if you're not going to have those 3 guys go off, you're not really going to have a chance against a team like Iowa, who's in the top 25 for a reason. They're 15-3 overall this year, and they do a lot of things really well inside. It'll be up to Trent to get going offensively if Illinois wants to pull the upset.
I think my biggest question mark about having Io and Trent play together is how is that going to happen? How are they? We saw a little bit last night. Finally, both of them got going.
Back-to-back games, they scored in double figures together.
Sure, and I think last night that's attributed a lot to at least how high scoring it was. That's
sure.
A big contest. How the point differential that there was, and how Illinois was able to get out to at one point a 6-point lead, and so that I attribute that a lot to. But I think that. I do think this game you could see Trent get going a little bit. I think that he likes playing Iowa. Iowa's a decent matchup for him just because like Io, where there's not many people that can guard Io, Trent's somebody who is also very difficult to guard. And so I think he's someone that could definitely get going. But I still think this team has to have one leader every game. And, maybe it switches off between Trent, or maybe it goes back to Trent eventually, right? But right now it's Io, and I think that that's going to be something that is hard for Trent to deal with at times. And I think
Trent's
we've seen, and we've seen that it's been tough for Trent because he isn't, he's ball dominant. He needs the ball, and he's not having it all the time. So I still think that it's going to be some rough patches here with how he's going to play, because I do think he's a team player. I think last night he was a great team player. I think last night he really found his role, and he needs to kind of learn that from Io DeSumo a little bit, because that's something Io does really well, which is be a role player. You saw it when he was on, the under-18 USA team, and he was playing in Canada. And, he wasn't the starting point guard, but he was somebody who, when he went in there, he facilitated really well. That's why NBA teams love him, because he's able to do everything well, and he'll pick a role, and whatever you put him in, he's gonna do his best. And I think that's something that Trent can even learn from him.
And I think what you bring up about having a leader sort of leads into Illinois' I think biggest issue this season. That's a consistency problem. And I know I brought up playing full games, but not just that, is having a good game, then having a good game the next time you're out. Because we saw them have a great game against Gonzaga and then sort of not be that same team the rest of the Maui Invitational. And I think it's really important right now too, because you go on the road against Iowa and then 5 of your next 6 are home. So right now, if you build some momentum and you look good against a, like you said, 15-3 team, then you come home or at least for mostly home, other than going at Minnesota, who you just blew out at your place. Maybe right then you could put a little stretch together that gives you some confidence.
And I think that playing at home is something we haven't really touched on, but that really matters for this team. Mm-hmm. This was honestly the first Big Ten game this year at home, that they've had the Orange Crush there, that they've had that. And if you don't think that matters, ask Minnesota what that was like to play in front of the Orange Crush last night, because they were awesome. And I think that when you see, like, this was really just the second really true home and advantage that Illinois had. I think the Georgetown game earlier in the year, but the UNLV game, the students were mostly gone on preparing.
This was the best atmosphere, hands down.
Yeah, Michigan, they were gone on winter break. UNLV, they were the students were studying for finals. 5 home games coming up after this road trip to Iowa is going to be very important, because this team can play well at home in front of a crowd like that, because they're just juiced up and ready to roll.
And if they beat Iowa, I think you can kind of bet that they're going to get on, even though it's a weekday against Wisconsin at home, they're probably going to pull their biggest crowd of I think, the season.
Yes.
If you go on the road and you do happen to kind of upset and beat Iowa, you're going to get a huge crowd.
Yeah, for Wisconsin and then a ranked Maryland.
Oh yes, well, Maryland's going to be in New York, but yeah,
it is?
yeah, it's
Madison
actually
Square
at
Garden.
Madison Square Garden.
Oh, I forgot about
But if they could fill that up, I would be.
That'd be sweet.
I would be shocked. No, but I do think, I mean, after Maryland though, they come back home and you're going to play Nebraska at home, and that's a game that over the past
Minnesota will kill you on the road.
Yeah, they will. They will. But every year with Nebraska, it's always back. It's always kind of Nebraska and Minnesota are two teams that. For Illinois over the past several years, it's like always been competitive. It's kind of that way in football too. It's just like it's kind of always like those two schools for some reason. It's always like
Not
semi-competitive.
this year in Iowa.
Well, no, I didn't say Iowa. I said Minnesota and Nebraska.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like those are two teams that for some reason things always just work out.
Right.
Against. But Nebraska's a team that if they come in and like at home, if that environment you can beat. So I think what this game did, especially for us, and I think people watching this team and being analysts of this team or whatever, is actually say, okay, maybe there are a couple games they could win, coming up. Because before you look at the schedule and you go, no. I mean, before that game, there literally was, I would look at the schedule, I say, maybe they beat Rutgers at home, and then, they could beat Penn State at home too. Yeah. Those are the 2 games on my list that I said, yeah, you could have that. And honestly, Northwestern, that was a game that I was like, all right, you could take Northwestern too. But those were 3. Now I look at it and I say, yeah, there actually is, seeing how this team competed against Minnesota, especially when Minnesota, like I've said, does really well what they don't do well, which has been rebounding. They can actually have a chance to compete with an Iowa team, or upsets maybe Wisconsin at home.
Or go play on the road with a Purdue team that's underwhelming, or beat Indiana at home, a team that you played pretty well with on the road there. I think what we saw yesterday is we finally saw everything come together. And the first time,
that's what Underwood said.
Right,
that's what Iowa said.
Everything finally came together, and you go, okay, that's the product. Mm-hmm. When everything goes right, that's what it looks like, and that's the first time in Brad Underwood's year and a half that's happened. Mm-hmm. That was the best 40 minutes of basketball that we've seen during Brad Underwood's tenure. And you have to build off that, because that was really exciting. You felt the students leave with a breath of fresh air, and that can only be a good factor moving forward if you continue to stack good performances on top of each other.
Well, what I'll say with that too is that's not just the best performance we've seen in Brad Underwood's tenure. I mean, I've covered this team now for 4 years. That's the best I've seen in probably 4 years. The way that they've competed against that team was in terms of, obviously it's in a blowout fashion, but the way the team looked and the way they connected is one of the best I've seen covering this team. Because
I think the only other game I can think of is maybe Michigan State.
Well, I was talking about this earlier, and I said, but from a game, because there's a difference between how they looked and the best game. The best game they've had in the best 4 years is probably when they beat Michigan State on Malcolm Hill's senior night.
Right.
That's the best game they've had over the past 4 years. The best they've looked is last night.
Sure.
So I think there's a clear difference between those two. And because I was talking about with someone, they said, well, there was that Michigan State game, and I said, yeah, I know, I was there, and that was a good game, but Michigan State didn't look very good that night. Mm-hmm. and there were times where, and Illinois played up that game, but that was a good game. It wasn't that I looked at the team and I said, now this team, and that was a year too where they were trying to go on the bubble. They were on the bubble to get to the tournament.
They should have made the tournament if they beat Rutgers the following game.
Yeah, exactly. So there was, but that was
athletics.
Yeah, that was a bubble year, right? So that was just a good game. This last night was really telling, because that's one of the best performances you've seen from this team in several years.
And Isaac, you made a great point of needing to build off this, but I also need to remind the Illinois fan base that yes, that is the product if everything goes right, and if we do really well, and you can't sit here and see some losses that are going to come in the future and just go, this team, why can we only do it in one game? It's because everything was falling, and the way it was coached and the way it was played, everything went our way. Now, you're not going to get perfect. You're not going to get perfection, every single time, but you see what can happen. And if that starts happening more and more often, then we can start raising the expectations a little bit more.
And Brad said that in the postgame. He goes, I want this team to realize that they might lose some games in the future, but that doesn't detract from the fact that they're still going to be a very good basketball team. Yep. And that's the thing you got to remember, because you're right. Not every night you're going to hit 8 threes. Mm-hmm. Not every night is Aaron Jordan going to go 3 for 4 from behind the arc. Mm-hmm. Not every night are you going to be able to turn Minnesota over or the team you're playing over and end up with 20-second chance points, 22 points in fast breaks, 52 points in the paint. That's just not going to happen on most nights. But there is you have the game plan now. You have the DNA. You've seen it. Now it's time where you can. If Illinois goes out and wins 5 or 6 more Big Ten games, that's a very encouraging end to a disappointing season that can give you some juice heading into the offseason. Because I don't think Illinois can go out on the road and recruit with a 7-23 record and be like, hey, come to here. Because you're going to get teams are going to kill you. Yeah. Being like, you want to go to Illinois? They went 7-23. They were 2-18 in Big Ten play. You got to be able to get some wins here toward the end of this stretch if you really want to be able to have some juice in recruiting.
And I think this is the first time too we've seen the effect Underwood has had on players, in the fact that last year the players were done. Last year, you could tell players weren't buying into what he was selling. I think that was clear. You saw that from Finke. You saw that from Tijon Lucas played pretty hard, but you saw that from guys like him.
So that from Mark Smith,
of course,
that's the number one.
But you finally now see. Okay, I think these guys are buying into it, because I honestly do. Just seeing the way they played last night, seeing the relationship they have with one another.
You saw how excited they were when Drew Casey got out there.
Exactly. Well, that was one point I was going to bring up. That was one of my favorite parts of the game, only because obviously the bench was crazy, but Brad walked away from the bench trying to hold back a smile and briefly let one out before going back stone cold. But he turned his back to the players and didn't want to show them that he was kind of giving out a smile, because he was happy to see that happen. But the way that he just even communicated with the guys last night. I mean, I always watch closely when people are coming off the court and, how he's communicating with them. And there were moments where, he's always going to do his yelling, but it was moments where the guys were staring into his eyes and focusing on what he had to say more than any other game I've seen before, because this was a moment where they looked bought in to what he was selling. And they turned to him when they were at the free throw line, not just the bench, but to him, and made eye contact and said, all right, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. And that's very encouraging to see for his grasp on this program and the players' relationship with
And that team was locked in from the opening tip. You saw Samba Kane had the turnaround jumper. When he comes off the floor, every single guy stands up and is really happy, congratulating him. That's early in the game when you're up 11-7. When you have that buy-in, you're right. I do think this team is completely bought in. You're not going to find many 5-12 teams that are completely bought in with what the program is going and how they're going about it. And I think it speaks to that there is a bright future. It looks bad now. The record's not where you need it to be. Illinois is not going to make an NCAA tournament for this will be the 6th year in a row. But you're on the right path, and I think that there's no doubting that.
And the supportive bench goes a long way, like you said.
And I will say, one moment I liked too, Samba came off the court. He hit a nice baseline jumper, and then he stayed in a little longer. Then he ended up coming off. And when he came off, it wasn't like he expected, praise or anything. It's not like he came off, he wanted, Underwood to give him a pat on the back or anything. He walked right up to Underwood. Underwood, he said something to Underwood, probably, I think, asking a question, it looked like. Underwood just responded to him real quick, gave him an answer, and then just gave him a pat on the back, and he went to sit down. And that's really nobody's walking off looking sad. Everyone's just focused on what the game was, which was extremely valuable.
And the quote of the night was Ayo Dosunmu at the end saying, early in the season, we took a lot of punches, and now it's time to throw some punches.
Let's go.
Exactly. And I think that's what you'll see. And Ayo's been key in terms of leadership and I think bringing these guys together, because his positivity after each game and his ability just to go out and lead the program was really strong. So Illinois basketball, best win of the season so far. Probably going to be the best win of the year, but hey, live it while it's happened, respect it while it's happened, enjoy it while it's happened, and now we'll look forward to Iowa and just realize this is a growth year, guys. You're just watching these guys build,
and at least until Saturday, we're on a winning streak.
Hey, exactly. Haven't heard that.
There you go.
All right. Well, we're gonna take our last break of the evening. We'll be right back. When we get back, we'll talk a little bit about the NBA, and we'll shove some NFL in there too. Pretty big weekend coming up. So make sure you stick with us here on Illini Drive. This is you're listening on 107.1 WPGU. Welcome back to Illini Drive here on 107.1 WPGU. I'm joined alongside Nathan DeHaan, Isaac Trotter, producer Tati Perry.
Hello.
Great. Tati, you have anything else to say?
Just thinking back to these restaurants and how I haven't had them. So, if you guys listeners have any more restaurant recommendations, just contact us somehow.
Tweet at Tati.
Tweet at me.
We all gave a Twitter shout out and told we said for IO comparisons that's what we asked for, but now we'll Tati restaurants.
Yeah.
Tati, give your Twitter. They're going to tweet you for restaurants.
Tweet me at Tati_Perry14 on Twitter and tell me restaurants I should try in Champaign. I need to know. I need to get out more. I need to try these restaurants.
Hey, and
You've
Tati,
been to Chipotle.
Yes.
that one you've had? Okay. Well, Tati,
Discovered it
you know
last
that
week.
even if you don't get any tweets, and I'm sorry if you don't, but you can go to visitchampaigncounty.org/restaurant week.
I'll keep
and
that in
they'll
mind.
They'll help you out. Maybe they'll tweet you. Who knows?
Plug alert.
I don't think so. But before the break, we were talking about some basketball. Now we're gonna quickly talk a little bit more about basketball. I want to talk about the NBA. Last night, Steph Curry just went off. We say that a lot. That just happens.
Yeah, when
That's
does
the
he not
huge.
go off?
But 7 threes I think he made in just the third quarter alone.
I think that was the 8th time he's done that.
Yeah,
and
something like
just
that.
ridiculous.
And the rest of the NBA ever has only done it 7 times.
Yeah, and
because
it just gets
numbers.
It just gets to the point too where they try to guard him, and he just because they think he's going to take a 3, and then he can just drive in easily. So I don't know. This guy's amazing. You also have James Harden right now, who's really going for a second MVP right now at this point, really carrying this Rockets team. But something that still amazes me is just the scoring we're seeing right now. It doesn't matter even who's playing. It could be like an Oklahoma City game versus the Orlando Magic, and it's like 130. So is defense just not being played, or is this just like there's too many dynamic scores?
Yeah, Jabari Parker really was right, hit it right on the head when he said they don't pay you to play defense anymore in this league. He's kind of right, and it's a scoring lead. I also think you've seen kind of like in the NFL where you see some of these rule changes that might favor the offense. You've seen some of these rule changes favor the offense in the NBA too, whether it's eliminating the hand checking and whether it's, you're having this ability right now to do whatever you want offensively. Teams are taking advantage. And let's be honest too, Steph Curry has kind of changed the league and made people prioritize the 3 even more.
Well, he has to be probably one of the top 5 most influential players in terms of this league ever.
Yeah.
Maybe top 3.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Because everyone now wants to be the next Steph Curry. They need to shoot the basketball.
That's why Trae Young is even drafted as high as he is instead of Luka Doncic.
Right.
It's wrong, but it happened.
Like they understand that 3s are better than mid-range jumpers from 18 feet. And I think you've seen the game change. And this NBA season has been really good. One thing that really stood out to me is the Dallas Mavericks have had a pretty solid year, except they're in 3rd to last place in the Western Conference.
Second to last now. Oh, no, just kidding.
And if they were in the Eastern Conference, they'd be a half game out of the playoffs. And
that's just still how it works.
Just how it is.
I too am looking at the standings right now, and something jumped out at me. So we're talking about defense. I'm going to give you guys each 3 guesses of who is the best defensive team in the NBA.
3. Wait, I get 3 guesses.
You get 3 guesses,
teams.
and then Isaac, we're going to go 1 and 1.
Okay.
All right? Because I really don't think you're going to guess it.
Okay. Man, I got to get 3 guesses in here. This is tough. I got to think about teams that I see not scoring a lot. Do you have thoughts?
Off the top of your head, who would you think?
My first thought was the Celtics have been always up there defensively.
The Celtics are in the top 5.
Okay.
They're not number 1.
How about the Pacers?
They are number 1. Wow. Okay. Good job.
Yeah. Pacers was one of my 3 guesses.
Number 2, only 0.1 behind them, is the Memphis Grizzlies.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Memphis Grizzlies average letting up 103.1 points
What's
a
their
game.
record this year?
They are 11 and 10. Or no, that's at home. They are 19 and 25.
Pretty good. All right. And then who do we have at 3rd?
At 3rd, let me scan real quick. It looks like the Jazz.
The Jazz.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. That
Okay.
actually was
Rudy
one of my
Gobert.
first
Rudy
thoughts.
Gobert.
Yeah.
We actually crushed
And
I
that.
had Pacers and Jazz on my
And then
mind.
the Celtics are 4.
Okay.
Okay.
We crushed that.
Yeah.
Most teams are hovering around averaging and allowing 110 a game.
Please tell me how Jim Boylan's Bulls are doing on the defensive end. How many points a game are they giving up?
They're pretty run of the mill, 110.9.
That's pretty solid. I'll take it.
All right.
Yep, they are last in the league in average though.
Okay. Well,
They are tied with the Grizzlies for the worst offense.
yeah, no, Pacers definitely. That was. I mean, they were 100% in my top 3 just because you watch them and you go, oh, okay, they play some pretty solid defense.
They try.
You're like, oh, this team looks like they actually play good defense. I was thinking that I was hoping there was going to be a wild card, and though just like the Knicks or something were going to be a wild card.
The Grizzlies actually are kind of a
the Grizzlies
wild
are a
card.
wild card. Sure.
Jaren Jackson Jr. I mean, he obviously adds a lot.
Just length. Yeah.
Dan Brooks.
Yeah.
I mean, they still have Gasol there. They
Yeah,
still have Mike Conley.
Yeah.
All right, but one last question. I mean, we'll get to some NFL, but one last thing about the NBA that I want to pose is, okay, so DeMarcus Cousins, he gets back on Friday. Well, tomorrow, technically, he's supposed to play.
Thank goodness they could use him.
Yeah, they really need his help, But is this just going to be another Warriors year? I think that's a question that's asked a lot, but I think after the recent streak that they have been on, I mean, and now they're getting DeMarcus Cousins. He's back actually a little bit quicker than he was supposed to be, and people thought he would be. So, is this just going to be Warriors again?
Yeah.
Okay, that's an easy consensus.
I think one thing that people forget about in Steph's amazing, just outstanding play and Clay's ridiculously solid play, and the fact that Kevin Durant's the second best player
Clay's
in the
actually
league.
at least had a little bit of a slump. And
but
Curry's been the most. And I actually saw a headline, I think, on ESPN the other day that was just sitting there and it's saying, is Curry actually a bit underrated to how much he means to this team right now? And I think he might be.
Well, but those 3 guys get so much of the glory, and I feel like we're always talking about Draymond Green in a negative way, but he's been playing at a really high level over the last couple of weeks. I think he had 18 points and 14 assists.
Well, last night was huge for him because he made he was
4 threes.
4 threes last night, and that kind of broke out of a slump for him.
And so now they get to add, another all-star who just is a monster inside. It's the Warriors year. It's going to be the Warriors year till one of the big 3 leaves. And when that happens, then the league will finally have a chance to win an NBA title.
Have you ever heard that Draymond Green looks like he shoots threes with the backpack on?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that.
Yeah, next time you watch a Warriors game, it literally looks
does.
like...
It looks like he's being yanked down a little bit.
So something I will say about this Warriors team, obviously we know Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant hit free agency this summer. Who knows if they can keep both of them, if they both want to stay there, what have you. I think that that offseason might be the start of the crumbling, might be where the cracks in the foundation
The only
happen.
thing I could see happening is I honestly think Durant leaves.
Me too.
And that's it, though. I think Klay takes a pay cut to stay, and I think that's what's going to happen.
Durant goes to where?
I think Durant is going to go to the Knicks. That's what I think.
I want him to go to the Wizards. So I'd like him to
That'd be
go.
interesting.
I would like him to go home. But here's the point that I want to make is every team built themselves now to beat the Warriors, be the Warrior defeaters. And now the competition and the excellence has risen up so high. We look at how good the Celtics team that they've created and the Raptors the way they are, the Bucks the way they're playing. I mean, the Nuggets are young and talented, and the Thunder might have found something with Paul George and
None of
Russell
them can beat the
Westbrook.
Warriors right now.
None of them can beat the Warriors right now. But,
Sure.
but then Durant leaves, and all these teams have spent all this money and time, and they've all dedicated this idea of rather than going and getting their bag and getting paychecks, they stick around and form these super teams. And I think the Warriors win this year. And then the next year, I think we see some of the best NBA basketball we ever have. The way that the 90s breeded all of these amazing teams because they all wanted to beat Jordan's Bulls. Now I think that we have that similarly with, a Celtics team, a Raptors team, a Bucks team in the East, a Sixers team that added Jimmy Butler, and who knows if he sticks around or if he yells at their coach
He's
or whatever.
a cancer.
But then you have the Rockets, and I would put the Nuggets and the Thunder in that category of, or if the Lakers add somebody because LeBron James.
And don't forget the Jazz, too. I think the Jazz are going to be really fascinating to watch over the next couple of years as Donovan Mitchell continues to take another step forward. Because you're right. It's a great point there. I think that there are 5 or 6 or 7 teams in the West that you could all see coming out of there and competing for an NBA title if Kevin Durant leaves the Warriors.
What I think is interesting about that, and I think that's a really fascinating conversation to have, only because what I think I see in the foreseeable future is a lot of superstar movement. A lot of switching. I think that there's going to be you're going to see Kevin Durant go somewhere, right? I think you're going to see eventually Gordon Hayward's going to be traded somewhere for the Celtics. You're Anthony Davis. Don't forget about that and how big that's going to be. And I think Kyrie's a situation where I think actually I could see Kyrie maybe even staying with the Celtics. Who knows? If he's putting up numbers like he did the other night, he's going to be fine staying there with a guy like Jason Tatum. But that is Jason Tatum's team right now. So maybe Kyrie goes to go with Durant. Who knows? But I think you're going to start seeing guys move around quite a bit. That's where the league's obviously heading. But that's why I think, is that going to outweigh the potential of having, these type of teams that are built to be that way when I think I can see guys moving around quite a bit in the future. So I think it's going to be really interesting next couple of years to see where guys are going and landing, because I think even, the Warriors before they had Kevin Durant, great.
Yeah, the 73 wins.
Yeah, the Warriors without Kevin Durant, I still think are going to be great. And I also think if Kevin Durant leaves, well, guess what? They have some money, and they're going to say, oh, okay, like maybe we re-signed DeMarcus Cousins because DeMarcus Cousins did a great job. He probably wouldn't mind staying there. They also can go out and get somebody else. They're going to be just as much.
Bench.
Well, I was going to say they're also just as much in the running right now for Anthony Davis as any other team. So, I mean.
Davis has said out loud, I don't want to go to the Warriors.
I mean, at the end of the day.
But yeah, when you get that phone call.
Yeah, when you get that phone call and you're like, this seems like
wait, Steph
be
is there and Clay and Draymond, and I can just do my thing? Oh.
I think Draymond could leave. That's a guy who could leave too. I could see that happening. But I think the thing about the Warriors is the way that they're being run right now. I just can't imagine someone leaves without them replacing that person with someone pretty decent.
That's fair.
Hey, and in the latest ESPN mock draft, they had them drafting Ayo Dosunmu. So I mean,
woo!
Yeah,
That'd be
wow.
interesting.
No, but that's why I think you're going to see this Warriors team turn into. I mean, they're already a dynasty, but I think you can see them win even 3 more. Who knows?
When's the last time an Illinois basketball alum won an NBA Finals? Any clue?
Well,
Nick
was Darren
Anderson?
Darren Williams was no longer on the Cavs.
Nick
on that
Anderson.
team. So
But he was on the Magic.
Magic with Shaq.
But they never won a
won
title.
yeah, they never won.
So you'd have to go back
Decades.
Eddie
Eddie
80s.
Johnson?
I don't know.
Myers Leonard.
Nope.
Just sitting. Who knows?
They're just going to
Maybe
always
he was
finish in third place
maybe
in the
he was
West and get
sitting.
bounced in the second round.
Okay.
That's just how they're
Before we conclude the show,
Actually,
Oh.
technically, I mean, well, let me think about it. He was in the G League at the time with the Warriors.
Kendrick Nunn.
Yeah, technically Kendrick Nunn, former Illini. I guess he technically won. He was part of the
in the minor
organization
leagues,
that won.
basically.
Yeah, he was in the minor leagues.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Before we end the show, though, I wanted to sneak NFL in the very back. I'll just do this. Pick them. All right. Chiefs host the Patriots, and the Saints host the Rams.
Chiefs and Saints.
I'm gonna say it's the end of the Patrick Mahomes thing. I'm gonna say the Rams win, and
That's
Patriots and.
oh yeah. No. But I'm gonna say the Rams win, and then I'm gonna say the Patriots win. It's gonna be Patriots.
yeah.
Rams.
I'm kind of with both the 2 seeds here too. I think the other day I had a buddy bet Chargers +4, and then we know how that game went. And I told him, I said, you got to look in the mirror. You got to look in the mirrr and tell yourself, it's Brady.
Yeah,
It's really
the
hard
problem
to
is
bet
the problem
against
is
Brady.
I mean, okay, Brady's been to 9 Super Bowls. That's ridiculous. Let's just remember that I think he's been to 9 Super Bowls. This man, and
Probably in a row.
He's won 6 of them.
No,
So-
5.
or 5 of them. Yeah, he's going for his 6th.
Right.
So, but the guy's been to 9 because he's lost 3. So yeah, no, has he been to 8?
I think it's 8.
So if he gets this one, it would be 9. That's what I think.
And-
Either
and-
way,
but eight-
he's
and
been
eight
to 8.
straight
But
AFC.
See, that's the
10
problem. We can't even say at the top of our head how many he's been in because it seems like he's in it all the time. And the way he played last week and the way the Patriots played last week, I go, okay, yeah. I mean, this has to be happening.
Did you see the statistic of the 18 seasons he's been in the league? 13 of them he went to the AFC Championship game, and he said it was more likely that Brady makes the AFC Championship than an NFL pass was completed more than 5 yards downfield.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say to end this is that the Patriots have had some really weird things happen to them this year, and some weird calls happen, and I don't know.
Yeah, but Brady-
and Mahomes is amazing.
Brady the
But-
GOAT.
all right, we'll see. All right, that's it for us. We'll be back next Tuesday. Nathan, thanks for joining us on our show.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. Tati, how you doing?
Still good. Still great.
All right, just want to end it on that note. All right, thank you for listening. This has been Illini Drive here on 107.1 WPGU.